Are we bullish again on ETH? I mean, with the upcoming merge, and is that a tailwind?
I can't express how important this ETH merge is. Let's assume that it goes through fine. Let's assume, and that's not a certainty, but assume it does. I don't think anybody understands in the crypto space what it means to have a benchmark yield, and I'm going to use the expression again because people need to understand what I'm saying. In ETH, this will be a risk-free ETH yield, i.e., it is programmed into ETH itself. Now, whether ETH goes up or down, that's a different issue. That's currency risk. But to have a benchmark yield in the second largest cryptocurrency, when everybody wants to allocate over time to Web3 as a theme, that is not counter to the FUD of the ESG narrative that Bitcoin has to battle with, it becomes incredibly attractive for institutions to allocate. It also means that we can then price risk. As I said, emerging markets are all priced like, I think everything's going to quote as a spread to ETH. And I've looked at this as well. I've gone through like Solana's yields versus ETH staking yield. They're basically volatility adjusted. So Solana's about 30% more volatile than ETH, and its yields is about 30% more. So you're kind of getting compensated for that. But it's going to give us benchmark abilities to understand this. And I think this is very important for the DeFi space and very important for institutional adoption. One of the reasons gold was not adopted by institutions is it had no yield. And many of the pension funds, they need to pay out pensioners and they need a yield. And ETH is going to be a very robust yield. Whatever it settles at, call it between 5 and 8%, whatever the number is, doesn't really matter. That's great. And it trades at a premium to treasuries. Now, yes, you've got currency risk, which is ETH. But if you've made the one allocation, which is, I want to get into Web3 or cryptocurrency, then ETH becomes an easy bet. So I think it's a really, really, really big deal. And obviously, then behind that is the amount that gets burnt, the supply issuance, etc. So you've got an enormous supply shock. Everybody locks up the ETH. The circulating supply of ETH reduces dramatically. You've got probably institutional demand. So you've got a supply and demand imbalance. Mm-hmm. Now, does it cause problems with unlocks in 2 years' time or a year's time? Where you suddenly get a whoosh when everybody gets unlocked and they can sell their ETH.
Do you think there are any other risks like in crypto right now? What could be the next?
The only one, I've gone through this. The only last one out there is MicroStrategies. But I think that's much further down. I think the short put is lower down. So I'm not really concerned by it. I kind of hope he succeeds because I love a bit of crazy sometimes. And I think, what he did was crazy. And look, investors bought the shares, they bought the convertibles, they're in it for the ride. So
yeah,
who cares what people say, right? Usually everybody's biggest fear creates an opposite reaction. And we've seen the indications of where regulation's going. And we know there's going to be a fight and there's a lot of terms we need to fight over and blah, blah, blah. Generally speaking, it's going in the right direction. Mm-hmm. That's the UK, the EU, and the US. So if you are Ohio pension fund and the regulators give you clarity and it's a non-correlated asset over an extended period of time, not passing correlations in risk times, you will allocate to this. So I think it's a very big positive of the space, the regulation, as long as they don't entirely ban it, which is not happening. My view, before we started to see the larger use cases of Web3 and understanding crypto, back in about 2016, I started to realize that the world was becoming more polarized, and online, people spread into online communities and stuck with those communities. There were generally echo chambers of communities, and those people were building kind of these very strong moats around these communities. And I was like, okay, well, these are starting to be where a physical location doesn't matter, and you can align. Because if you think about society that we grew up in fact, algorithms force it to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, okay, I knew that, but then we started to see the rise of community as a business model anyway. And it had become very apparent, even at Real Vision, that we'd got a community first, more than even a product now. And we were like, okay, this is interesting. And I've been writing about this internally since about 2018, 19. Then it was the realization, after reading Noah Harari's book Sapiens and rereading for about the 10th time Guns, Germs and Steel.
Yeah, great book.
What makes up societies and states is basically the same kind of thing. Same with religions, is there's usually a leader or a set of leaders that are trusted, or a purpose. There's an organizing set of principles, like the Ten Commandments or the Bible or whatever it may be. Obviously, connections between all of these people, the network. And then there's usually an organizing system of money or value. Now, even within the church that exists, the moment I saw social tokens, I knew this to be true immediately, that this is where it's going, that anybody can have their system of money. Now, if you step back and say, well, what is Bitcoin now? Bitcoin's pretty much a sovereign state, a digital sovereign state. It has its philosophies, has its leaders, it has its myth, it has its organizing set of principles.
It even has holidays.
It even has holidays.
Bitcoin Pizza Day. It has mantras, hodl.
So
it has leaders, yeah.
It's a nation state, which is why it's being defended so vigorously. You know, the Bitcoin maximalism is the defense by those that want to defend the network or the state. And so once you see it through those eyes and understand network effects, you see it forming everywhere. This tokenization, we're going to be able to tokenize culture and communities and like-minded people. And it's already happening at scale, but people are seeing it and calling it something else. Bitcoin, it is clearly a digital sovereign state. And it's one that concerns, why did Facebook get stopped from Libra so fast, like nothing I've ever seen before? Because they came up with some magic, which was, we're going to have this equally weighted basket of currencies, not including the dollar, or including just on an equally weighted basis. So we've got a world currency, and we're going to use it for the currency of our network of 3 billion people. So this is what digital sovereign states, but it also means that it becomes opportunity. Once you understand and see the world in this way, building business, building community, realizing value from community, unlocking value from community becomes extremely powerful. I mean, I've just co-founded a business called Science Magic Studios, and what we're doing there is we're a venture token studio where we help the biggest cultural communities in the world build their token ecosystems. There are music talent management businesses with reaches of 1 billion people. You know, what is Disney's community and IP and the sharing of that worth, right? Disney's what, a $300 billion company? My guess is the Disney tokenized ecosystem is probably worth $1 trillion.
Yeah, because it basically adds value to things that never
were
had
intangibles.
value. Yeah.
You turn intangibles into tangibles.
Yeah.
That is new GDP.
Yeah.
And you share it with the network. So it's for all of us a way of making money.